Hey family, excuse the look, it's early in the morning, but I wanted to get this out. So the other day, the Lord led me to watch a movie. And by the title of the movie, sometimes I could tell if it's going to be prophetic and it's going to be something that applies to a message that He wants His children to hear. So the title of this movie was Right Man, Wrong Woman. So automatically, I knew this was going to be a kingdom husband and a counterfeit. So, guys, the movie starts off. The counterfeit woman he was with was very manipulative. She was very ungrateful, self-centered. So the kingdom spouse in this movie, he had a whole business. He was an electrician, and also later on, a little bit into the movie, not only did he have his own business, but his mom and his dad, they were well off. They made a good living for themselves. So they decided to move to Florida, and they was leaving their home to him. So this was an inheritance. This was something that was passed down to him. All his, I think the only stipulation was that like he had to pay off the mortgage, but that beats buying a house and then still having to do that. So him and the counterfeit were engaged to be married. The counterfeit worked in a salon, so she worked for someone else. She didn't have her own business. Her credit score was shot. While working at this salon, she had a God-fearing, godly friend that was telling her, like, I don't know why you give that man a hard time. He loves you. He's a good man. And then she had like a ratchet friend who was like, girl, that man, if he ain't spending money on you, he ain't doing this, he ain't doing that. You need to get you a man to do this and do that, right? So the kingdom spouse comes to the counterfeit and he says, hey, I got a solution to our problem. He like, my parents are giving me or passing me down their home. Automatically you would think someone would be like, oh really, that's a blessing, that's this. No, she's like, I don't want the house, that's your childhood house, that's their house. I want my own house. You said we was gonna do this, you said we was gonna do that. So immediately he's like, but babe, I thought this would make you happy, I thought this, I thought that. So they end up moving into the house. She complains the whole time. So him trying to cater to her, he ends up selling his inheritance and getting money for it. He then takes that money, and because she has no credit, he purchases or leases a building in his name for her to have her own business, her own hair salon. Then he takes and he uses the rest of the money to buy back the inheritance that he sold. But when he bought it back, he sold it to her and put the deed in her name so she would have credit to build her credit score. So he forfeited his inheritance, sold it, purchased it back, used the money from it to build her up, and then turned around and sold the inheritance to her and put her name on what was rightfully his. And once he did that, it didn't get any better, guys. She was still ungrateful. He did what it is he thought she wanted, what he thought would make her happy. She listens to the ratchet friend's advice. She meets this guy that's a drug dealer that fills her head with sweet nothings and all of this. And she starts coming home late. Some days she don't even show up. He ends up popping up to the salon one day. She barely would go to the salon. Now he has leased this building for you. She would not pay the rent even though he leased it for her. Like, she had the money because he gave her the money, but she would not pay the rent. She would stop coming up to show up for her clients. And he pops up one day because he had the keys. He goes in, it's Chanel bags, Prada bags, all of this bags stuffed in one of the back rooms. And he ends up finding out she's cheating on him some kind of way. So he goes and he confronts her about it at the house that they share together. She throws up the fact that, oh, this ain't your house. My name is on the deed. Now, mind you, this is his inheritance. This is his family home. She puts him out and then starts laying up with the counterfeit. So the kingdom spouse, he goes and he meets with a lawyer, and the lawyer was like, look, sadly, there's nothing we can do. You put the deed in her name, so legally it's hers and all of this. So the counterfeit dude she was dealing with, the drug dealer, ended up talking her into stashing drugs at the salon that he leased for. So some kind of way the cops get tipped off that the drugs are in the salon. They come. The drug dealer boyfriend, I don't know nothing about it. That's hers. That's this. She ends up getting locked up for the drugs. So while she's locked up, guess who she calls? The kingdom spouse. So she calls the kingdom spouse. The spouse goes and visit his lawyer, and he relays the information. And the lawyer told him, like, actually, this works out to your benefit. And he was like, how? I don't see it. He was like, because now you have leverage. He's like, you can use the fact that, you know, you're still paying on the salon, and if she don't sign your property, your inheritance back over to you, that you're going to stop payment on the salon and this and this and that. So he takes his advice. He visits her in prison, and he tells her, like, okay, so I got a lawyer. His lawyer comes, and unbeknownst to her, the lawyer works for him. But the lawyer is kind of siding with the kingdom spouse, and he's like, yeah, if you do this and you do that, then we got a surefire way of getting you out of here. So they're like, what we need you to do is sign the inheritance back over to him, so that he can pay off the lien and stuff that's on it, because the stuff hadn't been paid. She wasn't doing anything. And then he can get the property back, and then he may be able to borrow some money against the property. And he was like, plus it would be an act of faith, because you're asking me to get you out of here and you still have my inheritance. So she's like, okay. And she's like, okay, as a matter of fact, you know, I didn't tell nobody this, and the cops don't know this, but when my boyfriend gave me the drugs, he also gave me a bag of money. And the kingdom spouse was like, okay, bet, where's the money at? He was like, I'm going to use that to pay off the lawyer. And then I'm going to use that to pay off the lien on the inheritance and get everything back, and then pay off the shop and all of this. And so the kingdom spouse goes and get the money, and he pays his lawyer. He gets the property back, and everything switched back over in his name. And I think he ends up selling the salon. And then so the spouse, the counterfeit, a lawyer shows up to the prison, and she's like, hold on, wait, where's the lawyer that such and such paid for me? And he's like, who? He was like, I don't know what happened to that, but I'm a court appointed lawyer. So she tries to reach out to the kingdom spouse. The kingdom spouse is like, you really thought that I was going to do after all of this? Because she truly thought the counterfeit reached out to the God-fearing woman. And while they was in the middle of talking, sorry guys, I'm sitting outside, but while they was in the middle of talking, she's like, oh, he loved me. She was talking about the kingdom spouse. He loves me. He's going to do this. He's going to come through for me. So she was still banking on the fact that she had this man wrapped around her finger, to the extent that he was still going to be there for her, even after she dogged him and get her out of the situation she was in. So he told her, like, no, I took that money. I did this with it. I got my property back, and this and this and that third. So he hangs up. Now, towards the end of the movie, we end up finding out that the whole complete thing was a setup. The ratchet friend of the counterfeit had a friend, and the guy, the drug dealer dude that she got with, was actually the boyfriend of the ratchet woman's friend. They purposely sent him after her so they would have somewhere to stash the drugs at. So the girlfriend of the drug dealer goes to him, and she's like, hold on, like, we know that the cops got the drugs, but where the money at? It still got to be out there somewhere. So they send the ratchet friend of the counterfeit woman to the kingdom spouse's door. And towards the end of the movie, it shows him opening it up, and she's like, you remember me? I've been waiting to talk to you. And it shows her stepping into the house and going off. So even though this is a movie, guys, I was praying to God. I said, God, please I hope, tell me that he has discernment. He ain't gonna fall for that. And God was like, well, yeah, because I opened up his eyes to the counterfeit situation. So yeah, they're moving with discernment right now. So what had to happen was, and what happened was, the kingdom spouses forfeited their inheritance by being with the counterfeit. They gave them all the kingdom benefits, and these counterfeits had no favor. So they were using the favor and the anointing of the kingdom spouses. So they went broke trying to keep these counterfeits happy.